what I have been reading and learning about, what I wanted to ask you about, especially since you work so much with energy, is about this period that so many spiritual teachers and prophets and everyone is talking about right now, this idea of ascension. And that the way, and I wanted to get your take on this, because the way that it's been described to me is that there's all of these astrological things and polar shifts and solar flares and things happening in and around the earth that is significantly raising the frequency of the earth, the energetic frequency. And as that happens, we are now having to rise to that frequency that earth is now and continuing to rise. Yeah. And then in order to rise or raise our frequency, the only way we can do that is by facing and clearing our shit. So I feel like that's why the whole world seems crazy right now, because everyone's like facing and clearing their shit, because we're all in training to the earth and our frequencies are rising, but they can't rise until we face things. Well, how would you describe it?
Yeah,
is that all what you would say, or how would you?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in a way, so I think of it this way, and you're correct. The vibrational shifts have started. I felt them around early 2012. That's sort of when things really started to shift. I think that's when we started to move into a new epoch, right? We went in from Pisces to Aquarius. I'm not an astrologer. I don't know all the basics, so please don't crucify me if I'm getting them wrong. But I feel the energetic shifts, and then I sort of look things up in astrology. But someone who's actually studied the history of the planet and the idea of things, when we look at ancient Egyptians, they very clear, their mindset was huge around, or they had an understanding of evolution or evolving past planetary fields. And in their mindset would be, moon level would be 0. So they looked at the moon and said, well, life can't be sustained there. There's no life there. It doesn't, it just gets hit with all the asteroids. It doesn't have a protective shield around it. That would be going backwards. That would be going negative. They looked at the earth as a +1. So this is where life exists. And then from here, they would say, okay, well, we're here to work things out and to vibrate. It's almost a small schoolhouse of learning. And as we move through things, we would then have the opportunity, and as we raise our vibrations, to incarnate into higher vectors, higher fields of existence or consciousness. So that could be going into sun level. And they would say, okay, Earth would be 1, sun would be the next one up, and incarnate into that frequency or that existence of star power, and then, sun, and then from there into star level. And it would go up through these sort of rays of creation, if you will. But what I feel is what's happened most recently, especially since around 2012, is it's changed. So we don't no longer have to sort of have this consciousness of saying, well, I can exist elsewhere. What do I need to do to exist elsewhere? I feel that the planet herself has moved into a position to where she's, and I know this ties into astrology, I just can't remember where it was, almost where we're getting what would have almost gone right to the sun, and then the earth gets it from the sun. It's moved into a position where we would receive it here on this planet. So this planet itself is evolving, and at an astronomical sort of rate, and which then all the humans and all the life on the planet would then start evolving naturally. So right now you have children being extremely clairvoyant or clairsentient, having all these clairs lit up. And I talk about this in this book that I'm going to launch this year, is very much through these natural levels of the planet. How there's these natural, there's 7 layers or 7 levels, and at the level 7 it would be the lowest thing. So this is where murder would exist, genocide, rape, all this horrible things. Level 6 would be finances. Level 5 is education, and then 4 is when we get into the level 4. It's when your natural ESP kicks on, clairvoyance, healing power, all these wonderful gifts that the human has potential in anyway. We all have the hardware baked in, but do you have the access to the software? Can you naturally evolve within yourself in the individual system and body to access these amazing potentials and abilities that are naturally there for you to exist in? So this is, in my mind, a way of ascension on the planet. She's sort of being evolved. We would be evolved in it. And yes, that's why you would see all these things in the planet. Actually, it's all the low stuff. We'd have to work all that low stuff out and then say, hey, that's not for us. This isn't, for this isn't going to evolve us in any greater way. We need to sort of, this is a process of letting go of the gauzes and the layers of within our individual self, and then of course the masses, that
So
we naturally come in with access to these abilities. They tend to get cut off early in age, probably around 5, 6, 7, 8, around those eras, based on the belief systems of the family, religion, what you believe is possible or not possible. So we naturally come in illuminating at level 4. Really, this is where kids say, well, there's a monster in my bedroom. Well, they're probably actually picking up on low, something that floated in, that's or something. Let's say the parents had a barbecue or something. There's a bunch of people there, and maybe, because we exchange energetics every time we talk and conversate with someone, it's an exchange. So the kid could have said, well, you let some weird things in the house, or people that have some weird things around them in the house. And then that's in the house. They're reading the energetics or the residue that was sort of left off in the home. So, or a parent comes home with things, from work, and they brought that into the door, right? They didn't take a walk in nature, or go for a swim, or whatever that was. They brought it in the home. So kids were wonderful at that age. It's when we move through the system and mentality of what has existed on the planet thus far, which is typically meant to block you.
Yeah.
I really I can't say that enough. It takes me to like the 1950s or something where, hey, you had to get the single family home, the white picket fence, the 2.5 kids and the dog. And if you have any problems, you don't talk about it. You just take these little pills and everything will be fine. And if that doesn't work, we have electroshock therapy that will really reset you. And don't worry, we'll send you release you back into the wild of your suburbs, and everything will be fine. Just get that new car, get the pearls, get the, whatever that was. And I feel like it's very much a marketing plan or a design to sort of keep humans sort of calm and docile in a way. So, countries are kind of like companies. We need the beehives and the bees to keep working. Worker bees work so we can, excel in these financial gains in ways. But I feel like the jury's out in all these ways. And that's part of this illumination.
You talk a lot about energy. I talk a lot about frequency, and I just want to make sure we're speaking the same language, and what you see is the difference. For me, frequency is the intensity and tone of the energy.
Yep.
That?
So I do the same thing. So in the book that I wrapped, it was the idea of there's these different levels, but within those levels, there's different energy frequencies. So all of them, it's almost like a cat has 32 different frequency tones that can illuminate out of that cat, or vocal tones. And the idea is you could have love. Let's take love as a frequency or an energy, or let's say an energy. And within that love, there's different frequencies within that pantone of energetics. So it's very much, to me, when you have different levels, let's say you have, in this book, I said it was like level 7 is criminality. And I look at it as, well, I'm staring at the ocean now. So at the bottom of the ocean, it'd be less light that gets to the bottom. So from there, it doesn't mean that things aren't illuminating and shiny. There's very much an allure there. It's almost how if you like books of vampires, are always handsome, and they have the house on the hill and the nice cars. Well, how do you think they get their food? They have to draw, there's an illumination or a glow to them that draws sort of things in. So if we look at the bottom of the abyss of the ocean, there's things, fish and creatures that illuminate and have lights and actually draw in their prey. So I feel like that sort of still exists, but there's not much high, genuine source light that can get down there. But as you move up through the levels, which all have all different frequencies baked into them, then you start to move in, because it's not one line. It's like, if level 6 is where finance sits, that still dips into 7, which would be criminality. So you could, someone could rob a bank, they're doing it for the money. So the intention is at level 6, at the bottom of 6, which is not top of 6, fair deal.
Yeah.
But they dip into 7, which is different frequencies, and it's criminality now. And then they go back and say, well, I fed my family for it, and I have just cause for whatever that is. But then you get to the top, it's the same thing. When you have 5, what I talk about in this book is 5 is education. Anytime you're learning something, you're vibrating at a certain frequency level, because you're open, you're receptive, and you're gaining a new knowledge, and that's coming in. So you're illuminating at that. Now, at that same tone, you could have a professor that is doing the teaching that could even be ego driven. They just like to hear themselves talk. They've beaten the same drum over and over again. Now you're in the same room as this person, but you're not vibrating at the same frequency. even
Right.
though you're at the same level. And the level would be, well, I'm in the same room with someone. We all got to be vibrate. We're all vibrate at the same frequency. Not so much, because one person's arc is a little bit different than and intention is a little bit different than the other person.
But what would you say is the best way to kind of work with these new energies and allow for the smoothest evolution through these layers that you talk, however you want to frame it, whether it's through these layers you talk about or through tips and tools you can give or whatever?
Yeah. So I look at the planet as a refinement system. And we got to understand that, in my understanding, it's all the humans, everything that we've ever done, thought about, that spills into things. When I look at people, sometimes I see literally the thoughts, the imagery coming out of their mind. It's their thoughts, it goes somewhere. And everything that we do gets lodged into the planet's aura, her energy field, just like everything gets lodged in our energy field. And so through that, there's a refinement system. So I don't think there's anything that can ever be like it was before. That's impossible. It's very much a new refinement system, new energetics, that the earth is expanding into new territory. She doesn't know where it's coming from. The universe itself is always expanding into new territory. And so with that comes growth. There's always a refinement system. And so for me to answer the question would be to let go. There's very much a whole process of life and death and letting go. So there's the story is sort of, the idea is, there was a teacher at the head of the class and they said to the students, if you could choose life or death, which one would you choose? And of course, everybody raised their hand on life. And then they asked the teacher, well, what would you choose? And the teacher said both. There's an idea of, of each day, there's a beginning of that day, a life of it. And then at the end, we close it out and we go to sleep and we reset, we prep ourselves for the next day or the next place. And so there's very much a life and a death with everything, but it's very much in the letting go. And I believe that's how the refinement system happens. We have to let go. So I would have to let go of the things the trauma in my past. And I work with practitioners to help me do that, just like I help people do that for them. But there's very much a letting go of that. So then you make room for the new refinement. That's the ascension right there. That's how we ascend individually each day. And it's a workup and it's a build up. Just like a building, it doesn't get, soul can't be built in a day. We can't hurry that process up. It's very much about releasing, letting go. And I believe very much our time here is a refinement process.
Yeah.
It's a slow motion of letting go and then taking in, almost like the tides. Tide kind of comes in softly. It's, little by little, you're like, is it coming in? And then, I don't know, I think we're fine here. And then all of a sudden the next wave washes away your picnic. And you're like, it is coming in, I knew it.
Wow.
It's that kind of thing, it's a gradual process. And I know we get impatient as humanity. We want all the things that we want right now. And I can say, thank God I did not get all the things that I thought I wanted 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago, because I've changed at core level. Through that washing out of refinement, I can say, well, wait a minute, those things that I thought I wanted then were actually based in maybe ego, maybe tied to something that was actually maybe not even mine. Maybe I was running a pattern or a program of someone else that I've adopted. It's what they wanted for me or what they wanted. I took that on. And so through me clearing my patterns and trauma and blocks, I actually become more of me. And when I become more of me, that's what I help people do, become more of them. Then they actually clear out all the brush, take out all the weeds, and they say, wait a minute, I actually want to do this, or I want to live there, or I want to go have these experiences. Those weren't even mine. I was carrying them through my whole life, and they were parents, or they were idols, or they were ways I thought I had to be in the world.